Hello and welcome to today's broadcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Davina and I'm the host of the show, which could be called Dav Chat, but regardless, it's a low structure show just to condense some of the news from Twitter, which is a social media platform that brings together a lot of work from journalists. It's full of a lot of noise of people expressing their opinions, but there are some great opinions out there and they're worth synthesizing, they're worth amplifying. So the news of the day is, of course, that Trump has just made a statement revealing he pleaded the Fifth Amendment when being deposed by the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. My apologies. Trisha James, I think, is a country music star. In any case, let's go and have a look at what his statement actually says. So Trump invoked his Fifth Amendment rights. Yep. He makes a statement that Attorney General Letitia James openly campaigned on the policy of get and destroy Trump. This political attack on me, my family, and my great company is her despicable attempt to fulfill that cynical and very corrupt promise. James developed a political platform and made a career out of maliciously attacking me. I shouldn't do an impression of Trump, it's terrible. Anyway, maliciously attacking me and my business before she was even elected, or reviewed one of the millions of pages of documents we willingly produced. Blah, blah. I'm going to skip to the bit where he says that he pled the Fifth Amendment. Because he's whining about Letitia James actually trying to hold him accountable for his various alleged crimes, likely crimes. I did nothing wrong, blah, blah, blah. He's never done anything wrong. Nobody should ever hold him accountable, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yes, at least he acknowledges. Trump says, I once asked, if you are innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Now I know the answer to that question. So he mischaracterizes the search, the warrant-sanctioned search of Mar-a-Lago, which produced apparently 10 boxes of documents that he had kept over and above the 15 initial boxes of documents that he improperly took and then returned. So he improperly took 15 boxes that we knew of and returned it. Much of that material was apparently so highly classified it couldn't even be described for the general public. And we've learnt on top of that now that there were 10 additional boxes of documents that he was keeping in his basement, obviously at a high degree of security risk to the United States. So he mischaracterizes as a raid. He's saying everybody's lost all moral and ethical bounds of decency because hyperbole and grievance are kind of the stock in trade. And I saw a psychologist refer to Trump as a mascot today, and I would like to promote use of that term because Trump is a mascot for white nationalists. It's a cult, but it's a cult of white nationalism with Trump as its mythologized leader, mythologized as a great businessman when he wasn't really. He was a great marketer, but his businesses lacked substance and frequently failed or had to settle for cases of fraud, such as Trump University, where Trump had to pay those people he defrauded a collective total of $25 million, despite having said in his campaign for president in 2016 that he would never settle with regards to that case of alleged fraud that was then resulted in a settlement that Trump paid. So accordingly, Trump says, under the advice of my counsel and for all of the above reasons, I declined to answer the questions under the rights and privileges afforded to every citizen under the United States Constitution. Every citizen, and that's a great point to circle back from because Trump's allies in the media, the determinedly conservative press, which includes Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, and quite a lot of the mainstream media, which is frequently derided as being left, but clearly carries a can for Trump and whatever fuels Trumpism, namely libertarian white nationalism and theocratic white nationalism, and their marriage and the progeny of that marriage. So the mainstream media sometimes report Trump's perspective and Trump ally perspectives as if it's the truth, as if it's just one side, when the actual job of the media would be to interrogate that truth to a degree, to contextualize it with facts. Because Trump's assertions are often very thoroughly unmoored from facts, which is a characteristic of fascism, which is a type of political rule built on emotional manipulation of a gullible subset of any given population that has become dependent on certain falsities. The falsity of German superiority helped create an appetite for Hitler's version of fascism, and the falsity of Russian exceptionalism has allowed Putin to gain traction with his imperialist, colonialist wars of aggression against Georgia, Ukraine, and of course undermining democracies in the West as well. So a lot of us understand how Putin's a really bad person doing a lot of really bad things, and the people who don't understand that are often allies of convenience with Putin. So the far left, that ostensibly is against imperialism, turns out they're only against American imperialism because that's their security blanket, that's their well-worn neurological pathway of despising their own country in an overshooting the target effort to not make the mistakes of wholesale adopting American exceptionalism to the point where they can't criticize America. They become over-attached to criticizing America, and now you see a lot of the far left supporting Putin, which is shameful. I'll call them the fringe far left. The far fringe left, the dirtbag left. They had a little ceremony recently with the flag of the United States and a pro-Putin flag. They're unabashedly communists, and I'm happy to publicly denounce them with fervor because their nonsense helps drive some of the rationalizations of the American right, the very powerful American right that are backed by more people. The far left, I'm sure, has figures that monetarily back them with money siphoned off from Putin's various petrochemical billions, because Putin is a very, very wealthy man. And the right is backed by American billionaires, many American billionaires, and libertarian billionaires like Peter Thiel, who you may remember was one of the founders of PayPal, one of the early backers of Facebook. He sued Gawker, he backed Hulk Hogan suing Gawker and helped get rid of that media platform. He funds J.D. Vance, a Senate candidate for Ohio, in the campaign against Tim Ryan, the Democratic candidate, and just generally helps to add to the pile of money that sabotages American democracy, that skews American democracy in favor of the uber wealthy, the obscenely wealthy. Democracy is supposed to be an effective counter to the power of cash, the power of huge piles of cash wielded by hugely wealthy people. And I might share, now that I've just covered the fact that Trump is complaining about being persecuted and says he's had this epiphany that pleading the fifth doesn't mean you're guilty. He now sees it's necessary from his own personal experience of being deeply and profoundly persecuted. Poor persecuted kitten. He's a mascot for right-wing white supremacists in the United States, whether they be the kind of libertarian white nationalists who just hate minorities because they don't want to pay tax to help redress the historical and ongoing inequities of the American economy, which is actually a useful idea because when you address inequities and baked in methods of keeping hierarchical divisions in American society, it helps America to end that practice or to counteract that practice because you unleash America's intellectual capital. When you stop segregating American schools and you allow America's Black children to have an education, you create so much forward momentum for America because intellectual capital is the brains and the energy and the heart of people who then are able to avail themselves of ladders of opportunity. So libertarian Republicans who want to just curtail their own personal tax bills as much as possible, not to make it a more efficient, productive, happy society, they just want more power and wealth for themselves. And then you have theocratic right-wing people who want to impose white Christian dominance on everybody else. So everybody has to acknowledge the power and superiority and dominance of white Christian thinkers who are often very happy to inflict pain on other people, to subjugate women, to preserve a system of hierarchy in which many white Christian American women are complicit. They've made some kind of internal bargain with themselves whereby their own ego is propped up by despising non-white Christian women or non-Christian women and thinking about how much more morally superior they are themselves to others and thinking that, yes, other terrible people have abortions and they themselves. Whoa, so loud. Oh my gosh, I wonder if my microphone is working because I don't have my standard microphone plugged in. So the last thing I'm going to do, because that alarm is for me to go. The last thing I'm going to do is share an article and just read the title out loud because I think it's an excellent article. And I'll read one particular passage from it. Okay. It's published on a website called thebulwark.com. It's called Tilting Our Politics Back Towards Democracy. That would be ideal. And look, the reports of a red wave were greatly exaggerated because gas prices have been falling for 5 weeks. Inflation is lower than it was anticipated. The CPI index lower than anticipated. And some people at least appreciate that there is a war that is impacting countries internationally. It's impacting European countries. It's impacting the United States. It's an inflationary upwards pressure. And Biden has helped shepherd through the Senate, which is the tricky part because it's a 50-50 split and there's two compromised Democratic senators, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, who have periodic alliances with wealthy Republican donor type people like the Koch brother, the surviving Koch brother. And what was I going to say? Biden's doing well. People can appreciate that a war in Ukraine, that Russia's war of aggression is causing inflation to rise around the world. So America is not isolated in experiencing inflationary pressure, but the Democrats have been doing as good of a job as they can in the face of Republican obstructionism. All right, let's have a look at this article. It says, what the old trope about the United States being a republic and not a democracy misses about the American system, which is a democracy. It is a subset of democracy types called a republic. It's a form of democracy. So I'll show you my favorite passage. The beauty in the story of America is not found in an uncritical adherence to the founders' design, but rather in the struggle. In various groups' demand, often resisted by others, that our democracy be more participatory and inclusive. I thank you, Black Americans, for making America adhere to its better self, to the better aspirations of the founders, because the founders did put in various loopholes for pro-slavery people to exert a disproportionate political dominance through such features as the Electoral College system and the composition of the Senate, which purports to help the little states, but really means help this little low population, highly agriculturally based, slavery dependent states and their descendants, who have often inherited that, an attachment to that mindset of denigrating Black Americans, denigrating their worth at a collective level, so that even if they admit personally to liking a Black person like Herschel Walker or Candace Owens, it is an exception that proves the rule, actually, that they are still very dismissive of the need to process American history in a way that helps them understand and accept the present, and understand and accept themselves, rather than continuing to attach themselves to a false concept of white superiority, and to grow a cult-like love for a champion of that false claim to superiority, namely Donald Trump, who conservatives are still clearly defending, even though he has broken the law. He's blatantly broken the Presidential Records Act. He's blatantly taken classified documents from the White House. Even his allies are just arguing that it's okay when Trump does it. It's okay. He can declassify anything he wants. Well, if he didn't declassify it, he didn't openly say, I'm declassifying this thing, and he just covertly stole classified boxes of classified documents, then they shouldn't defend him. The man's a security risk to the United States, who's very possibly sold and financially benefited from being transactional about the secrets of the United States in exchange with American enemies or American rivals, whether it be from Saudi Arabia or Russia. Who knows who Donald Trump has been, either has been or was planning to exchange money or favors for what he could sell of American secrets that needed to be protected. Details of American assets, details of American secrets, secret agents, CIA things. I have to go. But it was lovely to see you. Hi, Lion of Judea, and hi, Christopher Lucas. Nice to see you both. I'm sorry I have to go now, but I might be able to return later. And man, I put makeup on, and even as I did that, I was like, this is taking time away from me being able to talk to people, and it helped me feel community with white evangelical women who sell themselves out to perpetuate the bad bargain they've made with patriarchal white nationalism. They're like, yep, maybe my children won't be able to access reproductive health services, and maybe my state's getting run down by Republicans who insist on cutting services, but I will be able to maintain my self-designated place at the center of this moral universe where I belong to the right religion and I'm the right kind of person and other people are bad kinds of people. That bad bargain they make because it still prioritizes their ego, even if it's at the expense of their state, even if it's at the expense of their country, even if it's at the expense of their gender at a collective level. So why am I wearing makeup in this bad bargain that I have because it's kind of fun to try and look pretty, but it's eating into my time. So I'll work on that. That's an issue for me. I'm in that emotional milieu of thinking it's fun. Christopher says I look good. Thank you, Christopher. Take care, everybody. The article again is the bulwark, tilting our politics back to democracy, back towards democracy. It's at least it gives me hope when there's people who used to be conservative, who understand that the Republican Party is off the rails, is nakedly embracing a form of, an American form of fascism that involves cultivating political loyalty through lying to people and exploiting their willingness to believe those type of lies that they are superior, that they back the police when they don't really, as can be seen by the January 6 attacks, by their new claims to defund the FBI just because Trump's home was searched under the auspices of a judge or a magistrate approved warrant. Was it a judge or a magistrate? I think it was a judge. It was a Florida judge. I've seen opposing claims about whether or not he was appointed by Trump or whether he was appointed by another Republican at a state level. But Christopher Wray was and is a Trump appointee, a former George Bush official who worked in the George Bush administration, was appointed to lead the FBI by Trump. Trump presumably was counting on that Republican loyalty. Oh, but I have to go. All right. Bye, everyone. Take care. Thank you for being with me today, and keep learning about what's going on and sharing that knowledge, because awareness really helps. And white people, you especially have to work hard, because come get your tribe. They cannot sit on their hands and fail to vote to preserve American democracy, these midterms. White people, you need to get off your butts. Get out there to protect American democracy, protect the ability of the people to govern themselves and not be imposed on by deceitful elites who have sought and succeeded often in perverting the course of American democracy. Get out there and protect women and girls from the impositions of a theocratic, dominant Supreme Court bench. Get out there and protect social Medicare and Social Security from the depredations of libertarian Republicans who just want to slash things and claim it's financial prudence, but really their donors have paid them to be advocates for slashing services and slashing what are often called entitlements, but are things that American workers deserve and things that American workers have contributed towards for years. Take care. Bye.